Alright, hello to all my guys, gals, and non-binary pals out there across the electrical ocean. This is Jazzman back again with another game between Faust001 and baaly369. We got Faust on full faction Iron Fist. It looks like he's playing dwarves versus Baaly and his aquatics. And I decided to join this game. It has been a while, I feel like at least, since I got a game of full faction Iron Fist Stronghold, unless it's maybe like a Sun Tungvin game that I forgotten I'd uploaded. But yeah, full faction Iron Fist, I usually only see them in a split these days. But I'm definitely a fan. So we got Stone Skin Dwarf here contesting versus that Paladin. And does he have... Okay, so he has Rock Eater, so that Paladin is screwed. He's not going to be able to do anything. He does have Block, of course, and Bold. So we went with... Baaly went with the expensive upgrade build. But again, like against a Rock Eater, like it doesn't matter. Stone Skin Dwarf can just hang out there for as long as he wants. And what do we got over here contesting? We got Cecilia for one thing, and then we've got that stealth guy, Nearfolk Stalker. Okay, so we got a Stalker, more physical damage. So I'm assuming the Stalker is going to hang out around here to defend against this War Staff. And then Hydraxor can dive in, but he'll be just as useless as the Paladin because he has attack physical as well. So I actually really like the new Stone Skin Dwarf after they buffed him. I think he's definitely a lot more runnable than before now that he doesn't have that useless like channel defense build going on. He still fulfills... I feel like dwarves are one of the themes that are really spoiled for choice when it comes to good melee options. But Stone Skin Dwarf kind of stands out because he has, well, Rock Eater as an option, but Smashing, Crushing Blow is also something that dwarves didn't have access to before. So he can 1v1 really well with Enrage and Sunder. And he's decently cheap too, 70 Nora. Iron Fist War Saint, I guess, he competes with, and then Gallows Warden maybe, but he's more of like a 2v1 brawler. And, you know, Iron Fist, speaking of brawlers, Iron Fist Brawler also is in that same price bracket. So there's a lot of options depending on what you want your deck to do. But it seems like Faust is going for the early contest here against these champions, Cecilia. And, oh god, he DC'd. Okay, so maybe he realized that that's not what he wanted to do, and he just immediately rage quit out. He was like, nope, I fucked up, I ain't having this. So hopefully he comes back. I really don't want to waste this recording time. But he's got a Minister with Council Spells. Interesting. I very rarely see Council Spells on Minister. I think it just makes him a little bit too expensive. 78 is quite a bit when you could pay, like, for that same price, you could get a Dwarven Noble for a lot more melee-centric deck. But I think Minister comes with Battle Drum, so you'll want to run him regardless. It's just Annex is usually the preferred choice. Personally, I go with Spell Swallower, just because I like having a little bit more of a useful ability. I mean, it's worth the 3 extra Nora that you pay for him, I think, at that point, just to get some info on hidden spells that your opponent may be casting, if nothing else. But Stone Skin Dwarf can eat up that block, kind of a waste of AP in my opinion. I mean, it's block too, so we'll have it up again on the same turn. So I probably would have just waited a little bit for Paladin to, you know, move around for Bold, and then Minister can, you know, poke from the back. He's going to put down a guard tower here for something. I don't know if I agree with that. I think that gives Hydraxor and the Paladin something to hit. Whereas if it was just Stone Skin here and then Minister, you know, on the back end, and then Beer Maiden even further back, Hydraxor would either, like, he'd be wasting his time. Like, he would have to go deeper than maybe Baaly would want into Faust's deployment zone, just to, you know, get some targets, because now, like, he can just hit the guard tower and he'll have stuff to do with his AP. But it seems like the Stalker is going to dive down here and get a hit onto this stunned War Staff. Get 2 hits actually, because of, oh yeah, he has multi-2 now. But I think multi-1 is also an upgrade there on that path. But yeah, he has multi-2, so he's going to get a couple hits, and that War Staff is fucked. Like, I think Post was right to DC after that play, because at this point, I mean, War Staff is stunned. He's only going to get 1 extra turn of contesting in, and he kind of just threw away the War Staff. This is sort of the problem players sometimes face on this map, is like, if you deploy like a non-flyer or something without mobility over on these sides, like, you don't really have anything to do with them except contest. So you basically have to, otherwise you literally only deployed to grab your fawn, which is kind of a waste. So you want to, you want to use your champions to do stuff, but if the champion you deploy over on these sides can't really 1v1 or even 1v2 reliably, then they're kind of just stuck over here with nothing left to do with themselves. But it seems like baaly actually, I missed that. He actually used a flood to knock the war staff out of his font. I mean, at this point, I feel like Faust is fine with that trade. Like, baaly used 30 Nora and lost 2 turns worth of font Nora to keep that war staff away. I mean, and war staff is really cheap, so I feel like at this point Faust would think, you know what, that's fine with me. You used a spell just to get your font back, and he's also distracting like these 2 champions over here. Granted, Merfolk Stalker can't do much against Stone Skin Dwarf, but he could, maybe he could sneak around over here for a dive. Like, I think if baaly had used that flood more like aggressively to put some water down over here, he could have dove into this font of Faust's with his Hydraxor or the Stalker. But instead he used it to knock Warstaff away. Kind of a waste, in my opinion. But Paladin going to this far back edge of the font, and he's fairly isolated at this point. I guess he was moving around for bold stacks. But now, I mean, the Stone Skin Dwarf is kind of blocking the way of this Hydraxor. And I think if Faust sort of positions correctly, he can deny the dive, like over here. I mean, it's pretty hard, because there's a lot of water in this area, but Hydraxor probably going to dive in somewhere next turn, just to get some hits on this Minister. And then Stone Skin Dwarf going to start stacking up the Sunder to reduce the effectiveness of Bold. But unfortunately, Purified will sort of prevent that. And there's a Macadamize. Yeah, okay, so I don't know about that one. That's another spell that I feel like is a complete waste, because Boghopper Paladin's Waterfront will just overwrite that. Except it did not, because, well, I mean, it would have, except the font area is turned to stone as well. So the font turned to stone after Boghopper Paladin's Waterfront engaged there. So Hydraxor currently with no place to dive to. Of course, after this font is contested, that Macadamize will sort of be waste. See, this is the thing, like, that Macadamize didn't actually do anything. Like, if he wanted to turn the area to stone, like, he already did, just by capturing the font. So the Macadamize really only helped in, turning this area to rock, so Hydraxor couldn't dive. I mean, it technically does give stats to everyone, so there's that, but I think a deploy at this point would definitely be more advantageous to Faust, just because he's sort of behind on the board. He's got the Stalker facing off against over here. He's got Cecilia, and now the freshly deployed Mortar. And, oh my god, baaly, what? Okay, so this is actually the second time this has happened in a game of baalys. He deployed, and with the same champions, too. I just realized, Hydraxor, in his game against Badgerail, went here to capture this font, except he didn't actually capture the font. He dove back towards mid before capturing it. And he did the exact same thing again, this game. I have no words. I can't begin to explain why baaly would do something like that. But I guess those who fail to learn from history will inevitably repeat it. So baaly currently only on one font. I guess maybe he's trying to... Maybe it's like an arrogance thing. Maybe he's thinking, I'm so much better than you, I could probably win this game a font down. And I don't know. It seems like is Faust taking the bait? Maybe. I mean, he kind of threw away his war staff, but the spell Nora sort of offset that. But I don't know. We'll see. I think if I were Faust, I'd maybe send something up there. Like even the Beer Maiden threatening to grab that font would put a lot of Nora in his favor. So the battle drum's coming down. Minister beating his chest and taking down that Paladin. So Stone Skin Dwarf gathering the globe, and then I guess Beer Maiden kind of hiding behind the guard tower here. So I'd be very curious to know from baaly, if you're watching this, baaly, please type in the comments about why you refuse to grab your top font. I mean, I guess maybe sometimes sometimes it's just like 12 Nora per turn. Ew, get away from me! I don't want that. Get away. Maybe he's thinking like. I can't even imagine what he's thinking. So we'll go, we're going to see a Drunken Thug here come out for Faust. It's good that he's deploying down here because that Merfolk Stalker is still a threat to contest this bottom font. And Drunken Thug is nice. Ooh, a Righteous Deflection on the Minister. So bouncing the damage back that Mortar. Of course, Hydraxor and Cecilia can hit from range if they want. So that Righteous Deflection was actually on the Minister for 3 turns already, because it lasts for 6, and now it's only down to 3. So he actually put that up before the Mortar even came down, which is interesting because both Hydraxor and like all these champions around here had the potential to hit at melee. So RD at that stage didn't really accomplish anything. So Cecilia is going to come in here with a Constrict. Of course, baaly is perhaps forgetting about Purified, provided by the Brew. But does drop a Watershed Anchor as well. Man, this game is just a mess, like a mess of everything. And that Merfolk Stalker is still nowhere to be found. He has Hidden Water, so he should be... I'm thinking there's no way he's still sitting in this font, right? Like there's no way he's still sitting over here. He's got to be around here somewhere. He's got to be... Maybe he's sitting on this square. Wouldn't that be something? Maybe he's sitting on this 1 square of water and waiting for the Thug to leave that font so he can march right in. But yeah, this game is just a this is just a weird mess of game. Okay, so there he is, a weird mess of a game. Nora is being thrown around left and right. I don't even know what to make of this. So when Earthquake comes down here, finding the Stalker, and then the Stone-Skinned Dwarf does stack up the Sunder on Cecilia before Minister gets a hit. And then Thug, realizing that this font is safe for the moment, advances forward. I'm thinking, oh yeah, and there's a Swamp Touch amulet on Merfolk Stalker, which I missed. So Merfolk Stalker now has Escalation. He's only gotten 1 damage from that so far, so it must have been recent. Now he has 2, so he's gonna be slowly gaining some damage. I feel like the Mortar would have been a much better target for that equipment. I mean, Stalker does have like Assassinate and everything, but Mortar is like a really strong damage threat already. And I think if you put like Escalation on him, it'd be what the hell was that? Okay, maybe I'm you know what? I got a new theory. My new theory is currently that baaly is stone drunk, and that's why he's attacking into Righteous Deflection with Hydraxor. Ironic, given that he is against the drunk theme themselves, dwarves. I feel like the position should be reversed here. Baaly should be the one playing dwarves. So there's actually a drown on the Stone-Skinned Dwarf as he realizes Rock Ear is too much of a pain for him. And that is 80 Nora, or I think maybe 75. Yeah, 80 Nora that he could be using on a deploy to defend this font. But currently, Drunken Thug can actually walk in there and drop a relic and take it from baaly. And then, I mean, man, I don't know, like, baaly is definitely winning mid, but, like, he's losing on the side and he's spending Nora for no reason. That Earthquake also, by the way, was completely wasted, in my opinion. So another spell going down, Might of Iron Fist. Wow, maybe this is why no one plays Iron Fist Stronghold. Maybe they don't like to spell spam. Of course, that's not the most effective way to play IS, but it is a way. It is one of the ways of all time. So there's 2 Nora Globes, one of which could potentially be gotten by the Beer Maiden. Hydraxor does not have Cleave. He took Hidden Water, or maybe it's Dive. It's one of the upgrades, but he has Cleave somewhere, which he could have taken. But Beer Maiden could maybe gather that globe and give Faust the Nora for the cheap deploy. But that Watershed Anchor is kind of a nuisance here for the Minister, dropping his speed, despite Purified being present. And Drunken Thug does take the opportunity to contest with a Sepulchre of Kings. So that Sepulchre of Kings is a really strong relic. It's sort of like the Gritmar relic, the Hearthstone, except it protects, instead of reducing damage, it defends your champions by protecting them from damage. It's like a mini buffer every turn. And Hydraxor comes down with the Twisted Emerald, giving him Twisted Essence and Confuse. I don't know about that. I think if I were to put an equip on Hydraxor, I would definitely go with the Aquatic Talisman, giving him a bonus healing per turn. But maybe baaly is saving that for the Voodoo Shamfai here, because Voodoo Shamfai is also a pretty good wearer of it. Assuming you take Void Shield, which baaly did not. He took Tough 2 instead. Interesting. So maybe he doesn't run... I mean, he should be running Aquatic Talisman in an aquatic deck, which this is looking like it is. But Faust currently trying to take advantage. Man, just send that Beer Maiden top. Like, there's literally nothing over there that can stop you. Just go up there, just walk her up there and take that fawn. I mean, if nothing else, it'll force Bally to deploy up there. Maybe. I mean, he's ignored that font all game so far, so... I mean... So earlier I was talking about how if you deploy up here and your champ doesn't have mobility, it's kind of stuck. Like, he deployed Hydraxor up there, and Hydraxor can just dive back to mid, so it makes no sense that he would abandon that font. But, okay, so we got Faust with the Thug here versus the Voodoo Shamfai, and then Mortar in the back. And I think barring, I don't know, maybe another Righteous Deflection, but even then, like, the Thug is kind of screwed in this 2v1. He's got, Faust will have no ability to deploy at that font. I think just dropping the Relic and then maybe sending Thug to fight that Mortar would have been better. There's a Bog Trap, so no movement in this area for Faust champions. Dwarven King is not that great a deploy. It has a ton of damage. I mean, 23 damage is nothing to sneeze at. But the problem here is that Warcry is kind of useless when there's no other champions around. So maybe not the best deploy here for Faust, but I mean, he had the Nora for it. And so it's already down to half HP. But the Merfolk Stalker, we can't forget about him. He walks into Faust's font due to the mobility provided by Aquatic. And that's one of the only remaining differences between Aquatic and Semi-Aquatic, is that Aquatic actually gives mobility when your champion is on water. So he uses that to his advantage to walk into the font, and of course, because of the Bog Trap, Faust will lose all his HP if he tries to recontest. Thankfully, he does have the banner there, so the font does not go over to Bally just yet. Man, if only he didn't waste that Macadamize earlier, he could have actually overwrote that water and walked back over there. Or maybe even walked into mid to take that from Bally. But at this point, I kind of feel like the Thug... Wait, how did the Relic die? Okay, it was just Mortar that killed it. All right, so Mortar took down the Sepulchre there, and I guess Thug can maybe get some hits on Shamfai, but yeah, there's no way he wins that. So Dwarven King. You gotta maybe if he deploys like a. I'm trying to think of like a multi-attack. I guess Dwarven Wind Fury with Vindictive would be an option there, but nah, you can't really kill the Hydraxor this turn. So Samir the Brave decides to transfigure here, give a little bit of divine healing to the Dwarven King, and then Beer Maiden walks through the Bog Trap to get into Warcry range. So she basically lost 10 AP and gained 2. Very, very worthwhile trade offer, in my opinion. So Voodoo Shamfai getting some berserk attacks from the Thug here, and Thug in his drunken frenzy doesn't realize his peril. He's at -3 defense, about to take a pummel from Shamfai and then a hit from Mortar. I think that'll leave him at like the crushing blow reduces that even further. So he's actually dead. He's going to take 17 here, or 16, sorry. He still has tough. But, that'll actually save him. He'll be on 1 HP, so not quite there, Bally. Of course, the problem is that Thug is dead. Like, he can't kill the Shamfai. Maybe he could blink it. Actually, no. Blink is still banned in ranked, isn't it? And you gotta get on that. There's too many banned runes in ranked these days. But we got Dwarven King over here preparing to face down this Hydraxor. Hydraxor is screwed now. I mean, now that King can get his Warcry off, boost the War Staff, and there's also the potential of spells too. I think Invigorate is up next turn as well, so King can get 2 attacks off if he wants with that Hydraxor. And I think Merfolk Stalker. I feel like Merfolk Stalker should have tried to get the banner down. Because, I mean, there's still the Bog Trap, right? So, but Faust's champions could not go over there to deal with him at the moment. But now, I mean, you've moved your Stalker into Dwarven King's melee specialist range, giving him a damage boost. So, I don't know. Very suspicious play all around. Very, very suspicious. And Razorfin Slider comes down. So I like seeing these kinds of champions. Razorfin Slider, and I mentioned this in the Badge Rail game as well. I feel like the lesser used aquatics like Electric Eel and Shock Pomfret and Swamp Octopus, I feel like those champions, they could do with some buffs, but it's always fun seeing them. Razorfin Slider, nice damage, nice speed, and of course only 30 HP. But down goes the Hydraxor. So nice big juicy Nora Globe there for Warstaff. Except he runs right into Merfolk Stalker, unfortunately. And that is impeding water, by the way. That Hydraxor was trailing around. So Dwarven King cannot just walk onto that globe and get it. But Samir does regain the font. Oh, you gotta move... he has to move like right here. One space over. Because Merfolk Stalker can just dive onto that space and recontest the font for a turn. But Drunken Thug is going to use his last breath to Berserk attack the Shamfai. And he actually did quite a bit of damage on his way out. Shamfai, even with Tough 2, is down to 20 HP. Just from a couple Berserk attacks from Thug. So Drunken Thug, no slouch on the offense. Especially for a champion so cheap. 61 Nora, very efficient champion in Thug. But this font will be going over to Baaly again, and I really hope that Faust sends something topside at some point. Maybe runs Samir up there, as okay. So there's another Macadamize. That's I don't know about that. I mean, he got the globe. That's something. There must have been like, trying to think, like it's 15%. So 15% of what was Hydraxor? 90 Nora. So yeah, there's a decent amount of Nora in that globe that he just got. Not enough to offset the Macadamize Nora, mind you. But it's something, and it does cause Merfolk Stalker to take 5 damage because of not being on water. So there is that. Of course, now, even with 7 defense, I feel like that Dwarven King... Okay, yeah, so there's a flood. This Dwarven King is probably dead. He has 6 defense now from not being on rock. And that's weird how the terrain overlay works. It looks like there's still rock from the Macadamize, but there's actually... that space is actually water. As you can see down here when I hover over it. So it is water now. Although it doesn't actually show up on the map. And it look at that. Like there's water over here. Like in some parts it's covered, but other parts it's not covered by it's not covering the rock. I don't know. But Merfolk Stalker can get that Dwarven King Nora Globe. Moving from water to water there. So Dwarven King for Hydraxor. Probably not a good trade for Faust, especially, like, he's behind on the board, right? He's transfigured, he's behind to Nora. So losing the Dwarven King there, not very good. And Baaly actually takes the win after Faust surrenders. So I usually say well played at this point, but you know what, I'll say it anyway. Well played to both, and we'll see everyone in the next one.